Oh, I was going to ask our plan for Dev 1.
All right, all set?
All set.
And then are they just
Okay, it sounds like one person might not be muted. So as we go, feel free to keep yourself muted so we can all hear the presentation well. And if you have questions and things or comments, feel free to use the chat for that. And we'll have a little bit of time for questions as we go through. So as Kat said, welcome. My name is Dr. Courtney Slater. I'm a faculty member in the PsyD program, and I'm so glad to see you all here today. Admissions is one of my favorite things about I love teaching because I love engaging with students, and meeting new people during the admissions process is really exciting for me. Seeing your faces, getting to interact with people who are excited about clinical psychology and want to work in the field is amazing for me. So I hope that today I can give you the information you need to make a good choice about what graduate school might be a right fit for you. I love working at Widener. I think there are things that we do really, really well. Maybe I might even say the best in the country. And then there are things that we're not as much about, or training experiences that you might be interested in that you wouldn't get at Widener. And so I really want to give you the information you need to make a good choice about what will be a good fit for your training needs. So I would like to start off with some introductions. I want to get everyone using the chat early. So if you would take a moment and use the chat to say where you're signing in from, and maybe also what you really enjoy studying in psychology. As I said, my name is Dr. Courtney Slater. I am in Philadelphia. I live in the city, and I love studying religion and spirituality and clinical psychology. That gets me really excited. And I also love that many of you have your videos on. I can see many of your faces. If you're signing in and you just can't turn your video on, I understand. But if you're able to, I think it does increase kind of engagement and help you get more out of our time together. All right, I'm seeing people. Ooh, vacation North Carolina, awesome. Baltimore, Connecticut, forensics, cool. Yeah, Dr. Lizzie Foster is our forensic psychologist. Hamilton, Bermuda, welcome. And children, relationships, great. Philadelphia, North Carolina, law, psychology, Westchester, a lot of forensics today. Philadelphia, children, trauma, Georgia, abnormal. Hi, Alana. Signing in from Ohio, forensics, another one. Burlington, Vermont. Susan, Louisiana, hello. Pasadena, hey, California, child development. Olivia, West Virginia, Austin, Downingtown, school, Denver, New York. Okay, we're going to hold on to this chat so I can go over it and just see what you all are interested in. There's many in here, so I'm not going to name all of them. Clinical assessment, Temple, Boston, awesome. Bunch of North Carolina. You all should hang out together. Westchester, cool, so close. Allentown, Jerry, Pittsburgh, family psychology. Samantha, Tucson, Arizona, welcome. Wallingford, so close, Shirley, working with children.
I was going to say, a couple of local folks.
Yeah, I love it. Local and hours and hours away. Middletown.
Nix is right here in Chester.
Oh, fun. Okay. Oh my gosh, you all, this is awesome. Mumbai, India. Oh, welcome. I don't know where you're at. I don't know which little box is yours. Hey, I see you waving. Hey. All right, cool. Thank you so much for putting that in there. Oh my gosh, so many interests. So as I go through today, there might be things that you have questions about that are very specific, like school psychology certification, for example. I'm not a school psychologist, so I don't know all the details of it, but I can give you some information and then also help you get connected with folks who might be able to even more specifically answer your questions. All right, so let me, I'm going to give you kind of like a big overall view and then get more and more specific. Okay, so to start off, the big overall view of our program is we are the Institute of Graduate Clinical Psychology, which is the PsyD program at Widener. We are the longest running PsyD program, and the vision of a PsyD is to train excellent clinical psychologists. So that means that the value is around the clinical work, working with people, being able to do all the things that a clinical psychologist can do, which means that when we're deciding how to allot time, a lot more of the training time in the PsyD program is about getting clinical experience working with people. And that means that there is less of a focus on like lab time and like the PhD model where you're doing a lot of research and you might be in a lab. Our program is excellent at training people to do what a PsyD, what a clinical psychologist can do. So if that's really what you're interested in, clinical training, then we might be a good place for you. Now, again, starting broadly, we are a 5-year full-time daytime program. Okay, and we are located in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is outside of Philadelphia. I also want to name that it's the land of Lenni Lenape people. We're doing a lot of work at Widener around DEI work, belonging, and I don't want to just name the ancestral lands for performative measures, but within clinical psychology, we know that we are affected by our history. Our history is present with us today, including traumatic history, including the history of our land, our ancestors. We see it in our genetics, we see it in the way that we do relationships, and so that history is still with us today. So there's lots of working groups trying to think about the history of the land and the people and how that affects us. But that's where we are located. We do generalist training for clinical psychology, and then that it is definitely a generalist model. So if you want something very specific, we might not be the right place for you. We want to train people to do all the things that clinical psychologists can do. And there are then these opportunities to specialize, especially once you get further on in the program. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And we're an apprenticeship model or a mentorship model. And what that means is that in our program, you work with faculty members, professors who are currently both teaching and in clinical practice. Okay. And so they are teaching the things in the classroom that they're actually doing in their practice. And then they invite you to along with research, with consultation, supervision. You're always talking about cases together, and all of that is really informing what happens within the classroom. Okay. Remaining pretty broad, I just want to name some of the values of the program. So not surprisingly, one of the main values of a clinical psychology program, and the one at Widener, is around clinical training and education. We are generalist with opportunities to specialize. So you'll learn how to do assessment and psychotherapy, learn how to work with kids and adults, work with groups and families, opportunities to work in school settings, and also like private practice, clinics, inpatient, outpatient. We really want to give generalist training. Okay, so you feel equipped to work in many kind of spaces with many different kinds of people upon graduation. Another value is relationship. So there are lots of opportunities within our program to engage with faculty in the classroom, also in supervision and consultation, also research and conferences, presentations. We even do educational trips together. And we are a relatively relational model. Like, we just believe that the relationships are vital to learning and growing. And so we utilize relationships for the learning process. Now, there is a question in the chat about, are we assigned mentors? Can we reach out to potential mentors? Within our program, every student gets an advisor. So like, as soon as you start, you get an advisor. And so we have cohorts of about 30 students. So it would be like you and maybe 3 or 4 others who would be assigned to a faculty advisor. And that's the person that charts your progress through the program. So you meet with that person at least once a year, often it's twice or more, but at minimum, to like talk about, okay, you're in your first year. Here are the classes that you're taking. How's it going? Here are the steps you need to be thinking about. Let's talk about applying to practicums. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the next step is, they help you think about that one. And then each year there's different kind of hurdles and challenges that students face, and they're there to make sure you're going to graduate on time. Do you know what I mean? But then above and beyond that, it's often the case that a student will reach out to me because they have a different advisor charting their progress, but they're really interested in religion and spirituality or diversity issues or psychoanalytic psychotherapy, which are things that I'm interested in. So then I form like mentorship relationships or research relationships with other students. Sometimes they're my advisees, but sometimes they're not. So and then we have like small group interest groups. We have educational trips. So there's lots of ways to get connected with faculty. Okay. Great. Thanks, Natalie, for that question. Okay. And then a third value that I will name here is about community involvement. So we do have a commitment to our community. Widener University in general has a commitment to Chester, the city of Chester that we're located in, and also Philadelphia. There are lots of partnerships with like the local government, with local social service agencies, local hospitals and schools, where we partner together for the good of the community. Many of our students want to give psychology away. It is such a privilege to have access to education. And so we want to share what we're learning with the folks that we live with. Community involvement also includes experiential learning. And so we don't want to just go into the classroom, right, and learn knowledge, but we also want to, what does it feel like to be working with a person? You know what I mean? Like, not just learning to conceptualize what leads to suicidal ideation. What is it like to be with a person? Do you know what I mean? Because then you're having thoughts and feelings. It might be, you might have your own response come up. So we want to engage in experiential learning throughout the whole program, first year to fifth year. And gaining new experiences helps the person have new perspectives. I didn't even know this about myself until I was in this new experience. And now I know it's a way to grow self-awareness and awareness of other, and then grow the skills that you need as a clinical psychologist. It really is an interpersonal experience. And so we want to give people a chance when they're in the program to, to learn those skills, those interpersonal skills. Okay. Now, stemming from that, I think it's important to talk a little bit about our sense of community at Widener. I think this means a lot when you sign up to be part of a place for 5 years. What is the community like that you're going to be stepping into? And our program is created by the people. Our culture is created by the people. Within the history of psychology, there is a lot of trauma. I mean, there's a history of people being pathologized, marginalized, treated in ways that are very harmful. And so this is a history that I think we're trying to understand and repair. Anyway, but that's the history that we live with. And PsyD programs have been part of that in terms of marginalizing people, holding the knowledge of psychology only to a few, sometimes making treatment hard to access. And so we want to be mindful of that at Widener, and we're thinking a little bit about how we can create a different kind of community, one that has a sense of belonging and inclusion for the people. And so we all have to take some responsibility with that to create this community. And of course, being aware of the power dynamics and those of us that have more power taking a lead in that. And so what this means is we're kind of continually examining our program to identify and uproot the systems of inequality and marginalization. So this looks a lot of different ways, but like every 2 or 3 years, we take a community survey, and then we have a whole like day retreat to talk about the results of the survey and what do we need to do as a community, and especially as a faculty, but as a whole community to better understand what's happening. We also have other initiatives like funding and scholarships, student groups to support students who've experienced marginalization. There's also a student affairs committee and a diversity committee that think about these things. And all this is to say that, I mean, maybe it goes with the values that I already mentioned, but that we do want to be creating a community where people feel like they have a voice, they're getting to know themselves, they're interacting with others in ways that feel respectful, and they bring out the best in all of us, which doesn't mean no conflict. It actually does mean conflict, and it means that we know how to move through it together. Yep. So this is a little bit about the ways that we're trying to do this at Widener. And yes, students are a part of all of those committees. Yeah. Thank you, Marcella. All right. So let me get a little bit more specific about our program. So it is full-time and it is daytime. Our students are on campus 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. All the classes are on Tuesdays. Generally, all the classes are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then, and that's all 5 years, generally 8 to 5. And in the classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, generally they get more advanced. You know, you start out with some basic, there's just knowledge that you need to know about like development, for example, or abnormal psychology, how to diagnose, ethics. And then over the years, it just gets more specialized. Okay. Now, if classes are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the clinical rotations are the other days of the week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are available for clinical work. In year one, it's pre-practicum. This includes a couple of classes that are very clinically focused, where you're doing a lot of role plays, you're videotaping yourself, you're doing assessment interviews for the first time, maybe. You're practicing being a therapist in front of classmates and getting feedback. So there's a lot of experiential stuff happening, but it's kind of in a contained way. And that's because we want to give you a really strong foundation before moving into your practicum, which is in years 2 and 3. Years 2 and 3, you go 2 days a week to a practicum site. Now we have a practicum director who helps facilitate that whole process. So you might find that there are some programs where you have to find your own practicum site. That's not the case here. We work with a consortium in the Philadelphia area with other doctoral students, and you interview. We have, I don't know, over 100 sites where our students do their practicum 2 days a week. It's generally 16 hours. It's schools, mental health clinics, community clinics, working with drug and alcohol stuff. Also, for those of you who are interested in forensics, we have a number of prisons and similar kinds of programs. Neuropsych, if you can think of it, we probably have something for that. Okay, so that's practicum, it's years 2 and 3. And then years 4 and 5, you're in internship. All right, and each one of these is for 1 year. Okay, so you'll have year 2, you'll have a practicum, maybe it's at a school, right, where you're doing assessment with kids or something. Year 3, you'll have a new practicum, and it might be at a hospital, inpatient hospital. Year 4 would be your first year of internship, and that's a new site. Maybe it's college counseling. It would be 3 days a week. And then year 5 is another 3-day-a-week internship. And generally year 5 is like your most specialized year. So if you really want to do neuropsych, that would definitely be a neuropsych year. Okay. Yes. So as I said, practicum to internship, it gets much more advanced. You have more independence. You are offering services that might be more specialized. Okay. And the practicum and internship process is pretty similar for us, but I'll start with the practicum. The process is basically in like October, November, you begin to look at the list of all the sites that you can choose from. And you might pick like 5 or 6 that you're really excited about. And you can work with your advisor to think about, these are the sites, here's what I'm thinking about, you know, and you pick which ones you want to interview at. Our director of practicum will review your list and like, okay, it. Most of the time it's fine, but you might be trying to go to a place that only accepts interns and you're a practicum student. So then you wouldn't be allowed to interview there. But anyway, so then you interview at these 5 sites. Okay. And they will kind of rate you, whether they're like really excited about you or they don't think you're a good fit. And then you rate them. Maybe you're really excited about them, or maybe you're like, I don't think this would be a good fit for me. And then there's a whole match process that happens for practicum. Okay. And about 80% of our students get their first or second choice out of the 5. All right. And that you really like a place and they really like you, and it's a match. All right. It doesn't always work, but we make sure that everyone has a site, and 80% of the people are like super excited about the sites that they're going to. Okay. It's very similar for internship, but let me go to that next, because I see some questions. I'm going to hold because I want to answer the internship question first, and then I'll go back to some of the other ones. So we have this is very different from other programs. I think there's maybe one other program in the US that is like ours in this. It's very different. It might be for you, it might not be. So I really want you to pay attention to this part. We have our very own APA accredited internship. Okay, which means that we have a consortium of sites within the Philadelphia area that only take our students for internship. Now, one of the things that this means is that when you come to Widener, you have an internship. You don't need to worry about that. Okay, we have an internship for you. Whereas at most other programs, almost every other program, you have this like year 4, you're applying to internship in the APIC match, and you could be going kind of anywhere, and often there aren't enough spots for the number of students who are applying. It's one of my best friends didn't match. It was very, very stressful. But that's not something you have to worry about in our program. Okay, you don't have that whole application process. It's very similar to the one I described for practicum. You choose you choose maybe 5 sites, you interview at those, you rate them, they rate you, and we look for matches. Okay, that does mean that all of the internships are in our area. Now, the Philadelphia area covers like 3 or 4 states, because we're kind of located at the intersection of a number of states. Could be New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware is the other one. But generally they're within about an hour drive of Philadelphia. Okay. So in internship, it's 3 days a week for 2 years. This does mean that you get more internship hours than you would at an APIC site. We have our own internal match process, which I just told you about, and we have more than enough sites locally for you all, for all the students. And we serve all kinds of people with all kinds of challenges in all kinds of sites. Okay. Great. I wonder if there are any other questions about the internship right now. We'll get into specializations in just a moment. Okay. All right.
Courtney, the only internship specific question I'm seeing in the chat that I think you answered, but just to reiterate for Serena, are internships located mostly around campus or anywhere in the US? And you described sort of what we internally at Widener describe as the Philadelphia area, but is actually Delaware, Southern New Jersey, into Maryland, Philadelphia, the Philadelphia 5-county area, but typically within that hour drive time. So Serena, just wanted to iterate that for you since you did ask in the chat.
Great. Yes. Thank you so much. Yep.
And Michaela would like to know, are there opportunities for paid internships?
Yes, our internships are all paid. Some of them pay a little bit more than others, depending on, some of them are 9-month internships because they're college campuses, and the college campus counseling centers closed over the summer, for example. So then you don't get paid over the summer. So they each pay a little bit differently. And this is very specific, but what happens is that the payment goes directly off of your tuition. So you don't really see the check, which feels pretty bad to me. The reason that I am okay with it and don't fight it is that you don't get taxed on it. So you end up actually you don't take any home, but it means that that portion of money isn't taken out, and so all of it goes directly to your tuition, as opposed to if you got paid, you'd be taxed on it. So it means that years 4 and 5 cost less in tuition. Okay, and I can give you more specific figures on that if you're interested. Yeah, paid internship equals tuition reduction. Thank you, Kat. That's exactly right. And typical hours at practicum sites and internship sites, they really vary. So it's a process of, like, when you're looking over the list when you are a student, of thinking about what kind of hours you might like. If you're working with kids and families, sometimes that's evenings, and that is hard. But an inpatient site, you might be there 8 to 5 a Monday and Wednesday. Okay, so it just depends on the population you're working with. Yes, practicums are unpaid. Thank you. Yeah, and local internship sites for neuropsychology students are neuropsych rotations. Some people want to be at schools, but often it's testing in a dementia center, or working with people with concussions, or there's testing and assessment for a neuropsych, and then there's also neuro rehab centers where our students work. Yeah. Great. All right. And in terms of at a patient's home or centers, generally at centers, but there are places where our students do family, like home visits. Yeah, it just depends on the rotation you're at. Yeah. Great. Thank you all for your questions. Kat, if I missed any, feel free to interrupt me. I appreciate you being on the chat.
No problem. I'm answering the ones that I can.
I see that. Thank you. Okay, so there's already questions about specialization, so let me give you the overarching about specializations. I'm going to go from like most intense to least intense. The most intense, like in terms of time, money, your resources, the most intense way to specialize is the dual degree. This means you're getting a master's and also a PsyD. All right. There are 3 dual degrees that we offer, master's in human sexuality, master's in business administration, and master's in criminal justice. Folks who want to work with survivors of sexual assault or abuse, work with people in the queer community, work with perpetrators of sexual assault or abuse. Those are the kinds of things that lead someone to want to do the master's in human sexuality. Master's in business administration, if you want to work with organizational leaders, if you want to work in like healthcare, like work in a hospital to create change from that level, getting an MBA can be a really great way to go. Or if you're just interested in the business world, sometimes people do the MBA for that reason. And then the master's in criminal justice, if you're interested in working in forensic settings, corporal systems, you might want to think about the criminal justice degree. Now, each of those programs are structured a little bit differently. Some of them have online classes, some of them have weekend classes, some of them have evening classes. Those are things you could check out with that degree also, because you'd be doing their master's degree. Okay.
And I can run through those really quickly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for those who are interested in the human sexuality degree, 2 things. Yes, that is a hybrid weekend format. So there will be times where you are taking your classes online for the human sexuality program. And then there will be specific intensive weekends where you'll be physically on campus in Chester, like you are for your PsyD classes. Those typically are 2 weekends per semester per course for human sexuality classes that are considered in person. For the MBA and criminal justice programs, those are fully online. Some classes are synchronous, meaning you would be on Zoom just like we are right now. And some are asynchronous, meaning you are given your assignments and you work at your own pace and you have deadlines to meet and things like that. So a nice variety of formats so that those degrees can work as seamlessly as possible in conjunction with your PsyD work.
Great. Thank you, Kat. And for the dual degree, there is an annual fee for that. So instead of paying like, I think, God, higher education is so expensive. And so instead of paying for the PsyD and the master's degree, it's like you pay for the PsyD and $1,000. So in a way, it's a financially great decision, but a lot of people who specialize don't use it as much as they think that they would. So I do be thoughtful about the decisions that you're making as you think about specializing, but that's how the finances work. All right, the next level down of intense specialization is certification, neuropsych, biofeedback, and school psychology. There are national exams for each of these and requirements, like in order to call yourself a neuropsychologist, that we will lead you through so that upon graduation or before, you can call yourself a neuropsychologist or a school psychologist. So something in the field very specific that means, and we lead you through that process. Okay. And then there's an exam that goes with it. And then the kind of least intense level are what we call concentrations. This doesn't really mean anything outside of Widener. It's just that the faculty who are interested in these topics can give you some, it's a way to advise you about what classes to take if you really want to specialize in CBT and ACT. Like here are some courses you should definitely take. Or if you want to be a more psychodynamic psychologist, here are some courses to take in order to firm up your knowledge and skill in that area. So we have CBT ACT, adolescent and family psychotherapy, consulting, psychology, cross-cultural and diversity psychology, forensic psychology, health psychology, and psychodynamic psychology. Okay. Now, again, we're a generalist model, but you can get like bits and pieces of these other things that you're really interested in while you're with us. Okay. Okay. I love that we have so many questions, and I love that Kat is taking care of them for me. Okay, a master's is not required. I can do that one real quick. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the application. It opens in September and is due early December. Every year we have people submitting their application like December 10th, and then something stalls. and people are freaking out. So please don't wait till December 10th to submit your application. Submit it as soon as you can. And you can even get it in piecemeal, like request letters, and so that it's not all happening right at the end. I feel we only do this once a year, and I feel so badly when people then have to wait another year, and I don't want you in that situation. Also, PsyCAS, it verifies a lot of things, which also takes some time. So it'll be in your best interest to get all that started early, and ours. Okay, so these are the requirements. So yes, you need to submit the PsyCAS application. There are essays. We're shifting them a little this year. We'll announce that on September 8th, what the essays are. We do require 3 letters of recommendation and your transcripts, no GRE. At the end of the essays, you'll see that there are optional essays. So if you want to be considered for the scholarships that we have, which are service-based, please fill those out now. This is the time. Often, like people will get accepted and they'll be like, do you have any scholarships? And at that point, we've already assigned all of the money. Okay. So now is the time if you want to be considered for a scholarship. Our scholarships are service-based, which means that we have service scholars who spend about 5 hours a week, give or take, offering services to the local community and working with our faculty members to do that. And so then those students get a financial support in the program. Okay. Let's see here. There are prerequisites for our program: statistics, abnormal, and research design. Okay, just those 3. You don't need to have an undergraduate degree in psychology, but we do want you to have those 3 classes. Now, we often get questions. If you have any kind of statistics course, could be biostats, could be sociology stats, any stats we'll cover. It doesn't have to be psychology stats, or like in the math department stats, that's fine too. Abnormal often is called psychopathology, and research design could be called experimental. So if you have questions about that, you can email Kat or me about it. But generally, if it has those words in it, you'll be okay. Do you know what I mean? Just look for those words. Great. I love your nodding. All of you who are nodding, you're helping my heart. Okay, let's see here. I think those are the slides I want to go through. Scholarship essays, yes, due December 11th. Don't submit it separately. There's a place on the PsyCAS application for that. Percentage of students who receive scholarships, it depends. Every year we're trying to get more money to support our students. And so sometimes, there's 3 or 4, most of the time there's 3 service scholarships. And we're always advocating for more money. So, yep. All right. How about research design being in marketing? Yep, that's totally fine. Totally fine. Yes, the service scholarship is doable in a dual degree. I would prefer for you not to submit your GREs. We don't want that information. We just want to look at the full application of people, your essays, your letters, your GPA, maybe just to see that you did well in an academic institution. And we want to take the full of that. If we have GRE on some people, it begins to skew it. So, and we're still, as a faculty, thinking about what we would want to do with the GRE. We have committed for now and for the next couple of years to not use the GRE. But we're trying to gather data on how that's affecting things and make a good decision about that. Okay. We only need 1 3-class credit for the prereq. That's right. You need 3 prerequisites, 1 for each of them, and they're probably each 3 credit courses in your undergraduate, which is confusing, but hopefully that clarifies. Yeah.
And Courtney, if it's okay, I'm going to chime in on this just because I get this question a lot. Kat, I didn't take this class as a part of my undergraduate program. My bachelor's isn't in psych. What do I do? Take it at a community college. It does not have to be part of a degree program. If you're only missing, like say you took stats and you took some form of research design, but you need abnormal psych. Go ahead and find your local community college that has like an associates in psych program and see if you can take that class as a non-matriculated student. That is absolutely fine. It absolutely counts, and it is very affordable. We'll take online classes. They just need to be from an accredited college or university. But like I said, if your local community college has an online psych program, go for it.
Yep. Great. Acceptance rate into the program, Hannah asked. Well, ever since we went to SciCast, we really got a lot of applications. So last year we had over 400 applications and we're looking for 30 people. So we will, on SciCast, if we get about 400 applications, we interview 100 people. We will have interview days in January and February. Last year we went back to in person. We haven't made any final decisions about that, but I would guess we would do that again this year. But email us if you're international or if there's something happening in your life and you can't make it in person. But anyway, we'll interview 100 people in January and February. We'll make decisions in February and March. All decisions will be made by April 1st, and then you'll have until April 15th to make your decisions. Yes, you can apply for our program while you're still completing your undergrad. That's just fine. Yeah, and so if you're still taking classes like the prereqs, that's totally fine. Don't worry about those. We'll see on your transcript what you're already registered for the next semester. And then we just do a double check over the summer before people matriculate in to make sure that they finish the things that they were planning on finishing. What makes an applicant stand out? Hannah, good question. Well, for our program, it kind of goes with our values. We really want to get to know people. We don't want this like cookie cutout that's like you're the perfect student, because this is such a human to human kind of thing that we do in clinical psychology. So we want to get to know you as a person. How self-aware are you? How much work have you done on yourself? How much can you think ethically and make good decisions in hard situations? And some of that you learn from having experience in the field or having personal experience that you go through that is challenging, but it like refines you and strengthens you as a person. How much, yeah, so we're looking for experience. We're looking for self and other awareness. We're looking for a good interpersonal ability, the kinds of things that make a good clinical psychologist. And you can't really tell that from like a washed over, do you know what I mean, CV? That we want like full 3D people in the applications, and mostly that comes through in your essays and then in the letters that your letter writers send to us. Okay. All right, resume. Yep, that's on SciCast. Kat's got it. She's got so many of these. Okay. We still have a few minutes. I'm afraid that means I rushed through some things that you might still have questions about.
Oh no, they've all been on fire in the chat. It's been great.
Yes, I love that you're asking your questions.
Courtney, maybe we can go over the prereqs maybe one more time, because I'm seeing a lot of, oh my gosh, what about this class? What about this class? So maybe we can talk about what those 3 classes might look like and what you're looking for as far as what counts as research design or what counts as psychopathology, especially for maybe folks who aren't coming from a psych program.
Yes. So if you're not coming from a psych program and you've already finished your undergraduate degree, the easiest way to do it is go to a local community college and take their like statistics and psychology class, research methods in psychology, abnormal psychology class. That will definitely cover it. Now, if you have already taken a research methods class and it's called research methods, doesn't matter when you took it, or if it was like a biology class, if it says research methods, you're going to be fine. Or experimental psychology, you're going to be fine. But definitely research methods in psychology is great. Let's see, if you maybe, let's see, there's a lot of undergraduate programs getting creative with their naming of college classes and doing creative things about like bringing things together. Maybe it's like using statistics with marginalized populations and working with adolescents. Well, that is so specific. you can send me your syllabus. Okay. If it's something like that, where it's like they're bringing together a bunch of things. The reason that we need prerequisites is we don't want you taking a doctoral level stats class before you've taken some stats. We want you to get you to know what you're getting into, because you're going to take doctoral level stats and have a cumulative exam on it. Do you know what I mean? We want for you to have a basic understanding of psychopathology before taking a doctoral level diagnosis class. Okay. It's going to help you succeed in the program. And so if you're not sure, another good thing to do is go to a community college and take a psychopathology class, for example. If you're like, mine might cover it, but I think I'll have a better footing to start doctoral level classes if I brush up or something. Okay. Many people, there's a question about concentrations and things. Each concentration begins at a different time, or dual degree. The one that we definitely want you to apply to, if you know you want it now, right at the PsyCAS application is Masters in Human Sexuality. Has like, there are specific essays for that on PsyCAS, and that is an application you could do right now for the dual degree if you want to do sexuality and the PsyD. Other than that, and including that, really, once you get here, you can apply to the rest of them. Okay. Now, each one of them has a different start date. So like neuropsych starts in the 3rd year. Dr. Goldberg, our neuropsychologist, wants to like have everyone in a neuropsych class, and before kind of agreeing that they're a good candidate for the neuropsych program. School psychology starts in the 3rd year. Concentrations don't really need to start until 3rd or 4th year. Criminal justice, I'm not sure, maybe Kat could answer that, but it doesn't have to be upon your initial application to the program.
No, typically MBA and criminal justice are added in that 1st year.
Yeah, so we kind of want you to come to the program, get your feet grounded. It's a big transition to start a doctoral in psychology program, and then add on things. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have all these decisions made before you get started. Yep.
Awesome. If I can steal the mic really quickly,
Yep.
I am seeing a couple of questions specifically about the human sexuality program, specifically ASECT certification and what that looks like. And I want to clarify that ASECT certification as a sex therapist is an external application and an external certification process that you will do through ASECT. Our human sexuality master's program provides you the academic requirements set by ASECT. So we give you all of the coursework that you need to be eligible to apply for ASECT certification through ASECT. And our human sexuality faculty, most of them, especially our clinical track faculty, are ASECT certified and have gone through that process and are happy to help you with that. But that is an external process that you will do via ASECT. So just wanted to clarify that because a couple of people have asked about ASECT certification.
Yep. Similar about the concentrations, there's one about trauma. Trauma is one of those things that's kind of in everything that we talk about within the program, but in different ways. So there isn't a concentration about trauma, and it's probably talked about in all of them. Yeah, so we do limit people to 2 concentrations, or like 1 dual degree and 1 concentration, or 1 certification and 1 dual degree. One of the reasons that we do that is we survey our alumni and they don't use more than 1 generally. Do you know what I mean? And we have a lot of overachievers in a doctoral program, and everyone wants to do all the things, and you tend to be very successful people in all the things that you try. But boundaries are also important. And so even if you could do all the things, we want you to like choose a couple and really develop good relationships there, get grounded there. You don't have to do all the things. You're going to be fine. A doctorate is plenty. Do you know what I mean? And then often people want to do a dual degree or concentrate in something. So we want to open up those opportunities, but only to 2. Okay. Great. And we have it figured out to know like how the course ladders go together. You would just talk to your advisor about that. And each dual degree has a liaison who can also walk you through the decisions that you need to make about choosing classes year to year. All right.
There's a great question about neuropsych and would you be qualified to complete the EPPP at the end of the program?
Yes. Yes, all of our students are qualified to take the EPPP upon graduation. Each state has different laws about when you can take it, but we also have a class in the 5th year. You can take it 4th or 5th year, but we have an ending class that is like what to do after graduation, transitioning into your professional role, to help you think about licensure. Do you take insurance? Do you want to do private practice? How do you get licensed? In what state? Like, there's so much to think about. We have a class for that. So I don't want you to get too worried about that. We will help you with that transition. And yeah.
Susan asks a great question. What's the best kind of experience to have? Are we looking for research experience, clinical experience, volunteer experience, all of the above?
Such a good question, all of the above, especially with COVID. I mean, sometimes you can't get a clinical experience. We would love for you to have a clinical experience, working in a hospital, working as a psych tech at an inpatient institution, working at a group home. Things like that would be great. With COVID, things are restricted. So I don't know if you've experienced that, but certainly that's been the case for the last couple of years. So if that's not available to you, work experience where you're working with people would be good, where you're getting direct feedback from a supervisor and you're improving your skills. That would be great. Yep. So that can also happen in a volunteer setting, because maybe you're like that, I need to make money, but this isn't really showing the skills of a clinical psychologist. So you get some volunteer experience where you're working directly with people. And you have a supervisor there who could write about your interpersonal ability to connect with others, ability to take good feedback, ability to work as a part of a team. Like, those are the kinds of things we're looking for. You can get that in a number of settings. No. Great. Okay. I hate to talk about it, but it's really important. Price of tuition. It has been about $35,000. Even saying that makes me cringe. I don't come from resources. I don't know if you do. That's a lot of money, and we do not want to take that lightly. I think it's a good investment because now, I mean, I just feel so lucky that I can do a job that I love, but it is so much money. Most of our students take out loans, like a lot of loans. It's like a bell curve in our school where the majority of people take out, I think it's somewhere between, I don't even know if I want to say the figures because it might not be right, but maybe 50% of their school or more on loans. Some people have family members or something that can help finance it. And then there are people on the other end who have to do it all on loans. And that's a lot of money. So how to finance this? We do have some scholarships available, but not very many. And so other ways that people do this is by looking for scholarships outside. So for example, there are a lot of APA divisions that offer scholarships. You can look at those and maybe you really identify with one. You're like, psychology of men. There's not right now, there's like so many women and they're looking to support men coming into the field. And so like, maybe you look there, or maybe you look at the APA Minority Fellows Program, and they have money for graduate level doctoral students to support them. So I would look for agencies that want to support young professionals or people coming into the field of clinical psychology. And also most of our people work. Most of our students also have to work. They work evenings, they work weekends. Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Hannah asked a great question about career switchers. And I feel like we have at least one career switcher in every cohort, someone who comes in and says, you know, I come from business or marketing or corporate, and I've decided to make a switch. So Hannah, I definitely don't think that that's any sort of handicap or liability that you might be worried that it is. If anything, I think it adds even more diversity and richness to the community.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, we love it. We love it. So thank you, Hannah, and for others that might be feeling the same way. The more perspectives we have in the classroom, the richer the conversation becomes. You bring something that other folks might not have had experience with. So we love that. And from different states, from different countries, we have many people in the classroom, and then you can take that to practice in many different places. We have people all over the country and also all over the world practicing. So if you have specific questions about that, it can get a little bit tricky. There's no question about it, but we want to think about those questions with you and connect you with people who might already be practicing in the location where you want to practice, or who have found a way to do that.
Awesome. Grace asks a really great question about interdisciplinary opportunities with other programs. Now, obviously, if you are participating in a dual degree, you will be with students who are maybe just in that degree. So there will be students in your human sexuality classes that are just taking human sexuality as their program. But a cool thing about Bruce Hall, where IGCP lives, where your classes will be, you guys also share that building with the social work department. And at Widener, we have social work at all 3 levels, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral. And there's a shared lounge space in the basement, which sounds not nearly as enticing as it actually is, but it's a really nice space where PsyD students, graduate social work students, undergraduate social work students, everybody can kind of hang out down there. So that's a really great space for sort of casual and informal interdisciplinary collaboration. McCourtney, I don't know if you want to talk about maybe sort of more formal opportunities for students to connect with their colleagues in other programs and other departments.
Yeah. It's something Widener feels really excited about, and that we're always kind of forming new initiatives around. So, for example, many of, like Lizzie Foster, for example, part of the pre-practicum experience, there's this way that the clinical psych students do intake interviews, get to practice with the OT students, and then the OT students who are learning their basic clinical skills, like get to ask the psychology students questions. So that's a cool, like, between students way of, that you all kind of get to practice together, get to know each other. There's also, there are collaborations around local clinics. So like there's a Widener clinic that is a PT, OT, and psych clinic. So if people have a car accident, they're coming in to help with their physical body with physical therapy. They might also be working with an occupational therapist, but then the clinical psychology student is helping within the clinic to, maybe the person is refusing treatment or they're feeling really depressed or whatever. So there's a lot of interdisciplinary support in the local clinic. And then there's research that happens. Some of us do more of it than others, but we're all engaged in research, and many of us do interdisciplinary research. So working with colleagues in social work, PT, OT, criminal justice, human sexuality, business, just to name a few, that we're working with colleagues, and then students can be part of that too, that research that's interdisciplinary. Yep. What makes me excited about this program is the students. I mean, I wish you could just all meet the students. They're super smart. They challenge me every time with their questions, bringing a diversity of perspectives, things I haven't thought about, literature I wasn't aware of, and being in that kind of classroom is just really exciting for me. So it's definitely the students for me. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, assistant, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, go for it.
Assistantships. In some doctoral programs, you'll see that they have research assistantships that are paid. Those are often like positions in labs, because we don't have labs, we don't have research assistants, not in the same way that you would get paid. There are work study programs around the campus, and many of our students do that. And there are like graduate assistantships, and those are kind of like work study programs around the university that can be kind of an easy way to work and get paid, and maybe do some of your schoolwork while you're working too. So those are available.
Yep, I have a rising second-year PsyD student who works with me in my office.
Oh, fun. May I ask who?
Elisa Villa.
Oh, fun. Oh my gosh. Great. I love that pairing.
For those of you who are interested in neuro, I will get you connected with her because she's a neuro student. So she'll be a great resource as well.
Yep.
Courtney, do you mind elaborating on the specifications for the letters of rec in PsyCast? Like, who are we looking for letters from? Are we looking for clinical folks, supervisors, professional? I've seen a couple of questions about maybe it's just a little bit of clarity around the letters of rec.
Well, there's a lot of freedom and flexibility for you to choose your letter writers. Now that can feel confusing, like, well, then who do I choose? Because we're not telling you we need one professor, one supervisor, one mentor or something. So you get to choose. A wise decision would be professional connections that can comment on you and your ability to be a clinical psychologist, which is kind of all those things I named before, like, can you work with a team? Are you good interpersonally? You connect to others, you take feedback well, you're self-aware. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can Google qualities of a good clinical psychologist if you want to, but like, who can comment on those things for you? Also, we're gonna be thinking about the level of academic rigor within a doctoral program, and do you have experience that you might succeed in doctoral work? So that might be a professor would be a good one who could kind of talk about that. And then some sort of supervisor would be great, whether that's from your work or volunteering or a clinical experience. Also your character. We want to bring in people that are going to be good citizens in our community. So a character reference would be great. And maybe that's, I don't know who that would be for you. It could also be somebody else that you work with, or a religious leader. But then use your discretion, because we do want it to be a professional letter. You know, something like, oh, my niece is so great. Like, oh, that's not quite what we're looking for. Do you know what I mean? It still needs to remain professional. So use your discretion about who you invite to write a letter for you. Okay.
All right. I am looking at the time and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. We did say this would run until about 2 o'clock. I want to maybe end on Natalie's question, because I think this is a really great question to end on. Are there times when a student can research or concentrate on specific areas outside of what is offered, such as, she gives the example of perinatal research?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Natalie. Yes, for sure. The faculty interests are wide. We love diversity of ideas and perspectives, and you'll see that among the faculty. But that doesn't mean that there might not be someone who does exactly what you want to do. Now, the challenge with that is that you might need to do a little bit more work finding your mentors. There might not be a class specifically on what you're most interested in. And that can be a challenge for students. But we want to support what your interests are, and your advisor can support you in finding ways to study the things that you really want to study. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Great.
I am going to go ahead and stop the recording. I will be sort of cleaning it up and sending it out to folks. I know a couple folks had asked that I share this with them. I did drop my email and contact information in the chat, but don't worry, you all will be hearing from me shortly as PsyCast opens up in about a month. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your summer. And I look forward to working with hopefully all of you on an application over the next couple of months.
Yes. Thank you all. It's a lot of information. Appreciate you. Take good care.